What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping in with some more Destiny 2 news. Of course, we recently learned about the delay for Shadowkeep, which will now launch on the 1st of October. And so Bungie jump in and they give us an update to the roadmap this season. We're going to be getting extra events and an update in early September, so we get a preview of some of those changes. And it includes some kind of buff to Menagerie loot, so that's definitely good. And then Bungie show us some new armor and stuff for Shadowkeep, so we get a bunch of new screenshots. They talk about upcoming reveals. And so yeah, we're going to jump in and cover it in the video, guys. If you enjoy this one, a rating really helps me out, but otherwise let's get into it. And so of course you've probably heard the news about Shadowkeep being delayed till October of this year. I covered that in my previous video, but Bungie's saying this week at Bungie that they have a lot to reveal and explore between now and October 1st. The blog will be lively next week with some information on cross-save, PC migration, and everything else you'll need to know to kick ass this fall. And so next week is going to be a fairly busy one. Now though, I wanted to take a look at some pretty awesome images that we get of new armor in Shadowkeep. These actually come from the Steam page. They've been recently added, but we get a look at some pretty cool stuff. So initially we have 3 Guardians right here, the Titan that's on the left with the Hunter in the middle and the Warlock on the right. We can see that these guys are standing in a new section of the moon, but all of the gear here, especially with the Titan, appears to have that kind of Taken-on theme from back in D1. And of course they fit into the story of the moon because they were some of the first people to go there back in the Golden Age, and so we can expect some of the content to actually link to that and the history of the moon. But what do you guys think? Pretty interesting armor. I think all of it actually looks pretty decent, but I have already seen some mixed opinions about this, so let us know your thoughts below. We're also seeing them hold some of the new moon weapons. The Hunter has the loud lullaby hand cannon, and we can see an auto rifle that the Warlock is holding as well. And here we get a better look at those, but then down in some of the new areas in the moon, we can see 3 Guardians standing here. And interestingly, we can spot a new sword as well. It appears to be part of the same kind of weapon or gear set. It's worth mentioning that this probably isn't raid gear, this is lunar themed gear. But the sword actually has this interesting kind of tip on the blade. This is probably not the correct sword terminology, but it's certainly a pretty interesting looking thing. We can see it once again held by the Titan here. You can just about make out in the back as well. This is actually the first light PvP map from back in D1. The building in the background is the kind of tall building where everyone would get up on the rooftop. So yeah, as we've seen in some other kind of screenshots and images, it looks like there'll be some story content here. And now we get a better look at some of the Hive rituals taking place on the moon, the kind of Scarlet Hive enemies there. But the Hunter here is holding the new hand cannon that comes with a kind of long-range scope on it. Another image here of the fortress in the cracks on the moon, and then we see the accelerator, but behind the accelerator we can see the kind of giant cracks in the surface of the moon, and they've always been present, but back in D1 it wasn't an area we could sort of go to. As you can see from these images though, the Scarlet Fortress and most of the new sections of the moon are located in the distance a lot closer to that, so it's pretty cool and it gives you a bit of a sense of the scale and what's going on there. So yeah, just thought we'd get a look at some of those new images, and be sure to let me know your thoughts about them down below. Now for the update to the roadmap for this season, they say, with 2 more weeks on our Season of Opulence calendar, we're taking an opportunity to make players feel truly opulent. Moments of Triumph is being extended for those hunting their prize ship, Sparrow and T-shirt, multiple Iron Banners will happen during the final month, and a few Valor/Infamy boosts to help Guardians reach some milestones before the end of the season. And so here is the updated calendar. They do say that Solstice of Heroes is still going to end on the 27th of August, so that's not being extended. Moments of Triumph is, but if you want the Solstice stuff, you need to get that by the end of August. We're going to be getting Iron Banner on the 27th of August, and that's one of 2 events that we've got coming up. And on 3rd of September, we're going to get an update. We'll talk about those changes coming up in just a moment, but we have Moments of Triumph Week, and that's starting on 10th of September, alongside an Infamy boost. So Moments of Triumph Week is basically the final week of that event. Another Iron Banner on the 17th of September, and then we've got Mayhem, as well as a Valor and Infamy boost, running from the 24th of September to the 1st of October, which is when Shadowkeep launches. And in Destiny 2 Update 2.5.2, that's happening on the 3rd of September, we'll get some quality of life updates to address some trending feedback from players, specifically concerning rewards. So for Gambit Prime and Reckoning, they're going to be greatly increasing the weapon reward rates, and they'll also have bad luck protection to guarantee a drop after a set amount of runs. So that is a definite positive. And if you compare something like Reckoning to Menagerie, obviously the loot situation probably is looking nowhere near as good, but yeah, significantly increasing Gambit Prime and Reckoning weapon rewards. They did do that back in Season of the Drifter, but it's happening again. And then they're going to be tuning the difficulty of the Reckoning mode, so they say it will be tuned to be more welcoming as you hunt for rewards. So they will actually be adjusting that. Essentially, it's getting some kind of a nerf that'll probably make it a little bit easier to actually get it done. Certainly good for match-made teams, but Braytech schematics will no longer have a daily lockout and will give better chances toward weapons that players do not own. For the Mountaintop and Wendigo GL3 pinnacle quests, they're going to become more accessible. They don't say specifically how, but certain quest objectives will be tuned based on player feedback, so there's been a lot of conversation about some of those pinnacle quests. Particularly, I think the Mountaintop is probably kind of notoriously one of the grindiest quests in the entire game. And there's been a lot of feedback about it. Bungie will be kind of adjusting that. So on the most part, I think it's actually a good thing, although there may be some feedback from players who have already acquired it legitimately. But yeah, bear in mind that includes Wendigo. And as I said on the roadmap, there will be multiple weeks of increased Valor and Infamy to look forward to in September, with Iron Banner accompanied by increased Valor in each event. But then, as the season comes to a close, Menagerie chests will become more rewarding as Callus sees fit. So some kind of a buff to loot, or the loot drops in Menagerie. I think this is another positive for the game. Folks have spoken about the different ways that Bungie can kind of handle that. And as I say, as Callus sees fit, so maybe, if you complete one of the challenges, you'll get additional chests. Maybe there could actually be additional RNG drops on a completion, as well as, for whatever you're putting runes in for. But some kind of buff to the loot is definitely positive. And on the week of Destiny 2 Update 2.5.2.2, they will be hosting a community challenge of sorts. Stay tuned for more details. Obviously, that's going to be pretty interesting. Once again, they iterate that Solstice will end on August 27th, so make sure to get your legendary sets and masterworks, any requirements you need before that deadline. So let us know your thoughts about that, guys. I think the update they're bringing actually has some pretty positive stuff in it. And once again, at least a couple of other things to think about with those extra couple of weeks before Shadowkeep drops. I think it's really solid that Bungie are looking back at the Menagerie and looking at ways to improve that even more. We did see a kind of minor buff to loot in the heroic version this week, but it's positive that considering the feedback after they adjusted the glitch in Menagerie, and they are going to make some further adjustments to that. Also, the Gambit Prime and Reckoning weapon drop rates and the difficulty change in the Reckoning. I think regardless of the exact specifics of the change, the positive once again is that, especially considering this content is from last season, it isn't sort of being abandoned and ignored. I do kind of wonder if these were quality of life updates that were supposed to drop alongside Shadowkeep, and maybe Bungie are separating them. I'm not sure if that's a thing. But again, it's really positive that they're delivering that, and that they're kind of communicating so clearly at the moment. Once again, next week, we're going to get this State of the Game blog post from Luke Smith, which is going to be a pretty in-depth kind of look at where the game is right now, things that they're doing in Shadowkeep and why they're doing them. So hopefully, this is the start of even better communication, but even more positive changes in the game. Once again, let me know your thoughts about it down below. Now, for the known issues in this week at Bungie, they say shortly after its launch, we identified an issue where Solstice key fragment magnets were not improving the drop rates of Solstice key fragments. And as they investigate the issue, they're also working on a plan to restore bright dust to affected players, so if you purchase that, there should be some kind of refund, but they'll be following up with more information at a later date. Now, if you're one of the players who are eligible for the Prismatic Inferno or Wolves Unleashed emblems, earlier today, Bungie did actually distribute those to postmasters for qualifying players. They do add that players should be aware that these emblems will not appear in the collection until Destiny 2 has been updated at a later date, and until then, players who want to wear these emblems should keep them handy in their emblem inventory, so be sure not to delete them. You can store them in the vault and things like that, but just don't delete it yet. There is a known issues section. Spiders wanted bounties to not complete the daily bounty, the Electrician, which is completed by claiming other daily and weekly bounties. There's an issue with the aggravated battery bounty and some of the elemental loadout bounties, so do bear those in mind, but they are looking into them. Once again, Bungie have said that they're going to be releasing cross-save later on this month. And just to clarify from my last video, I had mentioned this, but yeah, the cross-save functionality should be there in full. And as Bungie has said, they're going to talk more about kind of getting set up with that in the next week or so. And so I'd imagine by the end of August that we're going to see that. And yeah, you'll actually be able to take your characters or your main account onto a different platform. So I'm personally really excited for that. And I know there are a fair number of players who are as well. The final thing in the TWAB is that just yesterday, Cosmo had another daughter. It's obviously really awesome stuff, and I'm sure him and the family are rather busy. But yeah, guys, that is the update from Bungie today. So let us know your thoughts about the new armor we gotta look at, or indeed the delay for Shadowkeep, any thoughts you have about that. I'll keep you posted with the news, so stay tuned here, hit subscribe and all that good stuff. But I'd also love to hear your thoughts about any of the roadmap changes and that update that we're going to get in early September. There are at least a couple of positives here, so let us know your thoughts, but if you've enjoyed the video, a rating really helps me out. As always though, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.